people who have started already joining.
Okay.
Um, so I'm also going live on YouTube
Okay.
just in case if people want to watch this webinar later. I'm also putting in the YouTube link in the chat window. Uh, just for everyone's reference. I think we can begin now since it's already 6:01. So
Okay.
first of all, thank you all the attendees who have just joined us. As you all know that today's session is going to be on Java interview preparation. So it's quite an important session if you are someone who is wants to start a career in tech, especially into Java development. So the topics that we will be covering, all in all, are understanding the job market. What are the skills that you need to pick up? What kind of interview questions are asked? What should you prepare in terms of topics? And if there are any resources that you should refer to, if there are any online courses, certifications that you can do uh, for this career. So, for this, I'm quite happy to welcome Shubham Mishra. He's currently the senior software engineer and is associated with IM Jobs. It's been more than 3 years that he's been working, and his experience spans into backend development, cloud computing, and AI integration and development. His main skills are into Java, Python, and JavaScript. So, just to all let you all know that there's a Q&A box that you can see in the options below. If you have any questions, you can just post in your question in the Q&A box, and we will take it up after the presentation. So, Shubham, over to you. You can start the presentation.
Thank you, Niharika. Thank you and welcome everyone. So I'll be starting. First I'll start by introducing myself. So I'm Shubham Mishra. I work as a senior software developer or engineer at IAM Jobs Division Business Unit of InfoEdge. I'll be going through specifically for Java beginners and how they can like get into the market and what the current market scenario is and all those things related to it. So you'll get a brief introduction, and you'll actually end up finding a pathway to get into the market and get your job and start doing your preparations, even if you're not looking for jobs right now. So yeah, so I'll be welcoming you all to this particular presentation that I have made for you. So I'll be sharing my screen, which is already shared, and I'll be walking you through all the important points that I have prepared for you, starting with the agenda of this particular meeting. So in this particular webinar, we'll be understanding the current Java job market, skills which are in demand, and how what basics every fresher should know. And actually I'll be providing you with some questions that are generally asked with beginner Java developers or freshers. And I'll also provide you resources that are way different than what you'll find on Google. So they are not just one Google away. Uh, so yeah, there's a lot in this webinar that you'll get. So I'll start with the market overview. So globally, as you can say, Java still dominates the global tech industry when it comes to programming languages. There are two competitors of Java. One is Python and another one is JavaScript. So I'll start with a fun fact. When Java was found, there were two, three people who were creating Java. Everyone knows the name of the founder, so I'm not going to go into that detail, but it's a fun fact that I'll be telling you about Java. So when it was founded, the main problem that people were trying to, every specific language that you see today is solving a particular problem. So that's how Java also started. So before Java, there was C++ and C, COBOL, a lot of different languages. So the main problem with those languages were that they were not machine independent. They were dependent upon hardware. So if you wanted to write a C program, you'll have to get a hardware that is compatible with C language or C++ language. So there were a few people who wanted to remove this obstacle from programmers vision. So what they did, they created Java, which became their ultimate aim was to create a machine independent language, so that a machine, what kind of hardware, it doesn't matter. If that hardware can run JVM or it has JRE, your Java service is going to run on it. So yeah, that was the thing. That's a fun fact. And eventually, at that time, the internet boom, the dot-com boom started. So what they did, what their vision, they shifted their vision from removing an obstacle from creating a machine independent language. They visioned Java as an internet language. So that was a fun fact about Java. And so now, as I'll go ahead with the overview. So Java is currently dominant, and it's really very high in demand, and it's used in, just name a sector and you'll find, even in AI and machine learning, everywhere Java is present everywhere. Everyone uses it. So there's no bound. It's too versatile, and everyone uses it. And now, talking about the job market, I'll also talk about the salaries, and I'll also talk about the skill sets that people need. So yeah, there are some framework knowledges that you need. So in colleges, what I studied in my college was, they were teaching me language, they were teaching me the object oriented programming, the concepts and everything, the language specifics, the basics, but they never told me about a Spring Boot in my college, unfortunately. But now they do. Now they do. So there are a few frameworks that, along with your skill sets, it's not just the language that is in demand, it's the frameworks that are in demand. So Spring Boot is a really very popular framework. If you want to create APIs or web servers or even a game, you can create it in Spring Boot. It has endless possibilities. Similarly, like Node.js is for JavaScript, Spring is for Java. That's how you can relate to it. Or talking about Python, you can say Django or Flask. They both are similar to Spring. And a fun fact about this, there was a Spring project for Python also, but I don't know, the community that was building it, they stopped it midway. You can Google about it. Spring Boot, not a Spring Boot, but a Spring Python. You'll find the repository on the GitHub also. And talking about the salary, so it's ranging from 3 lakhs to 5 lakhs in the beginning, and it's crossing 1 CR annually. The salary markup, it's crossing 1 crore. So it has endless possibilities. It's a huge gap, starting from 3 lakh to going 1 plus CR. And that too, I'm not talking about people who are having 15 or 25 years of experience, but people who are having 4 to 5 years of experience are also cracking interviews that are paying them annually 1 plus CR salaries. So yeah, it has endless, salary is just sky's the limit for Java programmers. And now, talking about current market trends. So yeah, you can mostly what people are trying to do is with Java is that it's not a POC kind of language. POC, I would say, it's not a language that people just play around with it. It's a language built for production use. So yeah, people in the market, they are actually they're demanding those skills that require to create a production level softwares or services. And along with that, they also want people who are having not just experience, but who actually can think and tinker with ideas, and they can create a reality. So for example, if I'm just having an idea of creating a, let's say, job portal like naukri.com, or a study portal, or or something like that, a blog portal, I'm just having an idea, and what I'll be expecting from a Java developer is to convert my idea into a reality. If that Java developer is a fresher, then I'll be expecting that fresher, after hiring, that within a year, after 1 year, or maybe within a year, that person can create production grade code. So yeah, that is the expectation from the market right now. And yeah, mostly people are going, you might have heard about the term serverless architecture, software as a service, platform as a service, all these buzzwords, you might have heard about it. If you'll go to the numbers, I would say 80%, more than 80% of these platforms, software as a service platforms, platform as a service, platform as a service platforms, all these services and products, they are running and they are using Java at one instance. They are using it directly or indirectly. So yeah, so it has a lot of future potential in it. Okay. Now we'll be moving towards the key skills for a Java beginner. So starting with JDBC and SQL. Most of you have heard about SQL databases and all, but it's not just that. From a fresher point of view, JDBC and SQL is essential. They want you to know a little bit about it, like you can perform CRUD operations, create, update, read, delete these operations into a database. But once you go above, once you're having an experience after 6 months or maybe 8 months or maybe a year at some companies, they'll be expecting you to have knowledge of NoSQL databases also, like MongoDB, Elasticsearch. Different. It's different. There are a lot of databases in the market. So yeah. And key skills that are there is, of course, the current version of the particular language. Here I've mentioned Java 17 and Java 18, but currently, if you'll go to the Oracle website, you'll find Java 21 also, but that is not production ready yet. There are a lot of cool features in it, but it's not production ready yet. So yeah, it's just a beta release, so you can tinker around with that also. And it I have heard that it has syntax similar to that of Python, but yeah, we are not sure. It's a beta release, anything can change. So yeah. And talking about the core Java skills that beginners should have is an understanding of OOPS concepts, that is object oriented programming concepts, and data structures, of course, and some algorithms, not all but some, that are really very frequently used. So yeah. And talking about Java frameworks, as I also told you, that frameworks are really very important in today's job market. So Spring is one. Hibernate is an ORM, object relational. It's just Hibernate is nothing. You don't need to worry about it. You just if you know Spring, at one point you'll be using Hibernate, JPAs and all. So yeah, these are some terms that you can like note down, and you can Google it later, and you can create projects over it. So yeah, that's it. Frameworks there are Spring, and if you can also go to the website of Apache, and specifically for Java language, and you'll find a lot of resources, open source projects there to tinker with. And then they in the current job market, the important skill is agile methodology. So yeah, the people who interview you, they expect you to have little bit of knowledge about this Scrum and Kanban boards, because most of the people, they use Twilio, or some use Jira. These are tools to manage software development life cycles. So they expect this a little bit of knowledge about these things, like who's a Scrum master, what's a Scrum cycle, what is a sprint, and all those things. So these are little basic things that they expect, that you know a little bit about them. And then talking about development tools, so it's subjective. Some people use Eclipse IDE, which was very popular because it was the initial one with a lot of features. And some use a lot. There are different tools available for version control. They are using Git. For creating production builds, they are using Jenkins. For library management, I would say, like for Node, you use Node package manager. In Java, we mostly use Maven, and at some point people are also using Gradle, but Maven is the popular one. So yeah, it's that. And talking connecting it with Python, so there's a Python package manager. uh, so Maven is similar to that. Now, talking about testing tools, if you're going to a quality QA job, then there people are expecting you to have a little bit of knowledge about Selenium, TestNG, different concepts of testing. So those are just concepts. Ultimately, you'll have to write Java code. So even if you're using Selenium is just a library that provides you most of the functionalities, so that you don't have to create boilerplate code. So you just need to know a little bit about Selenium to automate your testing flows and everything. So these are the few key skills for a beginner Java developer that industry is expecting. And now, talking about the real expectations from a beginner. So those are that proficiency in modern technology. Of course, they want you to know a little bit about what is machine learning, what is AI. At least they want you to distinguish between them. You can go ahead and say that, okay, AI is a superset. Talking about set theory, if AI is a superset, then machine learning is a subset of it. You need to they can ask you that, explain how AI is different from machine learning. What is big data? What is Internet of Things? What is blockchain? They'll ask basic concepts, because these are just they expect one line answer from you for these buzzwords. So yeah, that is their expectations. And talking about versatility, they want you to they want you to be versatile, because let's say I'm a person who's working over a finance project. I'm working with a bank. So if I switch my job, then they let's say that job portal is into HR management, HR tech, then they would be expecting me to have some domain knowledge, like what HR does, how employees attendance is marked, little thing about basics about that particular domain. If I went into e-commerce, then I must know how vendors are interacting with the portal, what is the flow, how vendors register to our portal. So these are basic domain specific knowledge that and people want you to be versatile enough to switch from one domain to another very quickly, because a company might have different products and they might ask you to work upon different products at a given instance of time. So that's why versatility is really very important, and one very much important expectation that companies have from freshers, that they want them to be versatile. And then of course they want you to have a good coding skills at the basic level. So yeah, they will be asking you about the basic libraries, basic concepts, as I told you, object oriented programmings, aspect oriented programmings, all these things they will be asking you differences between these. So these are the basic things that they are expecting a fresher to know. And now there's one important thing that I've mentioned is community engagement. So most of the people, they don't know, but companies, most of the direct hires actually have happened from Reddit also. So yeah, Reddit is also a job portal. Most of the people don't know that. If you are there are different communities where if you are providing answers, Stack Overflow has its own job portal. So if you're providing answers, if you're interacting with the community, dev.to is a website where companies are looking for developers. So they are not just sticking with job portals, they're actually looking at communities, different communities. If you're engaging there, if you're asking relevant questions, if you're asking good questions, if you're answering good questions, then there are chances that companies will come to you and they'll ask you to work for them. So community engagement is really very important. And there's one more thing attached with community engagement, and that is online presence. So if a company is searching you or your profile, let's say they visited your LinkedIn profile, and from there they might branch out to different, if you have mentioned your different websites and everything, links and everything, blog portals. So they'll be going over there, they'll be reviewing your profile, they'll be reviewing your behavior. So a lot of things are happening in the back end before hiring a candidate. So these online presence is really very important, and for that, community engagement is really very important. In the end of the slide, I'll be providing you really good platforms where you can interact in the community. These are healthy communities. You can go there, you can interact with people, and you can create a good engagement at the community level in the beginning. So yeah, it's good for beginners. And then attractive salaries. So yeah, initially when in the beginning in 2000s, the salary range was from around 1 lakh or 2 lakh. Now it's 4.43 per annum at minimum. So yeah, so salaries are attractive, and as I've told you, it's not limited to these lakhs numbers, it's actually going to the crores. So sky is the limit now. And that too, not just for Java developers, yes, but mostly for Java developers, because most of the languages are these object oriented programming talk about Java and JavaScript. So if you want to get into front end development, you'll be working with JavaScript. Syntax wise, they both are a little bit similar. So yeah, sky is the limit for the salaries. Now, with all these skills demanded, with all these expectations of the market, how will you align your skills with the market expectations? So yeah, what you can do is you can master the core Java. That's one thing that you can do. You can go ahead on GitHub, you can create a new Spring project, you can learn about a Spring, you can go ahead and do that. You can go learn some front end technologies, you can create APIs, you can create services that perform CRUD operations on different databases. Neo4j is a graphical vector database. So you can use these, there are SQL databases, there are no SQL databases, there are vector databases. You can go ahead and create projects and upload them on GitHub, and you can play around with them. But are those enough? Like, are those really enough for today's expectations? I would say no. uh, there's one thing that you can do that's not mentioned here on the screen right now, and that is you can go into the community, you can go to the pages of the companies that you like. Let's say you want to work in an XYZ company, and that company has its own career portal, or let's say career pages, about us pages. You can go there, you can see what they are building there, you can look at their products, and you can see what they are building. I'm not talking about service based companies right now, I'm talking about product based companies right now. Let's take an example of Intel. They have most of us, they might not know that Intel has also published its own library for pandas. It's a version of pandas. Panda is a really very popular library among Python developers or data scientists. So they have provided their own version of pandas. So these are the things that companies don't expect from a fresher. But as a fresher, if you know and you tell them that okay, there are these things, and I have researched, and I have, I have learned all these things, and I know about these things. You can go to my GitHub and you can see I'm not using a regular version of pandas, because it's not that for whatever reason, Intel pandas are designed to be way more efficient on Intel processors. So you can tell them that if you are having an EC2, cloud services knowledge is really very important, but they don't expect you to know a lot of things about cloud. But there are compute engines or EC2 instances that AWS provides. uh, they expect you to know what processors they are using, the code that you are writing. Sometimes it happens in reality that let's say they are using Xenon processors, and Intel Xenon processors, those processors are not compatible with a given specific version of the language that you're using. So it might happen. So how will you debug all these issues? As a fresher, it's not important for you to know all these things, but if you know, then those are the plus points. So that's how you can align with the expectations. You can tell the recruiters, you can tell the company that okay, there are basics that I know, you have interviewed me, but go to my GitHub, look at my projects, and here are some things that I have done beyond the ordinary uh, job seekers. So that's how you can align with the market trends, and those are the kind of candidates companies love. Believe me, companies love those people who go out of the limits, do stuff, they learn new stuff, they create POCs, and they prove companies that okay, this is possible, and we can go ahead and build a product around it. And that's something that will give you promotions every single year, believe me. So yeah, that's a key insight that I've given you. So that's one thing, how you can align with the market expectations. Another thing I would say, okay, DevOps, they ask you for having a little bit knowledge about DevOps. As I told you, that you must know what an EC2 instance is, what is compute engine. So EC2 instance is just a name that AWS provides. The compute engine is a name that GCP, Google Cloud Platform, provides. Both are same, both are similar. It's just that the terminology is different, and internal pricing might be different. So those are the few things that they want you to know about the cloud platforms. And there are queuing services, there are different kind of services that they provide. Now they are providing AI services also. So they want you to have basic understanding of what services they are providing, so that you can work around with it and you can create projects. As I told you initially, from ideation to project, they expect you to be good in them within 6 months or within years, depending upon companies. So you need to have these basic knowledge about these mentioned skills. One among them is soft skills. So yeah, this is one thing that you can align. As I told you, you can go to the company website, or you can go beyond the limits of the ordinary, and you can learn about new projects and new development in the software industry. So it comes under the soft skill. You need to be good at problem solving, you need to be good at communication, you need to be good at teamwork, and you need to be versatile. Adaptability is a key. So why communication and teamwork is very important? Because there are scenarios you'll encounter where you'll be having dependencies on different teams. So the thing that matters there is how quickly you communicate with them and how easily you get your work done. So because a lot of teams are they are working over different projects, they might be busy at that particular instance of time. Your work might be work might be dependent upon their work. So it creates a lot of cohesion, and it creates a lot of dependencies among teams. There, communication and teamwork are the two key skills that comes into play. So you need to have this, and you can't have it by reading books and reading blogs and everything. You'll actually have to go into the industry to enhance your skills. And before going to the industry, you can talk to your friends, you can talk to, you can engage in the community. As I told you, you can go to different platforms, you can talk there. It will definitely enhance your these soft skills. These are really very important in the software development industry. So now I'll be moving towards introducing with the basic Java basics that every company in an interview they ask. So of course they expect you to know the basic syntax and structures of the Java language. So they'll ask you, let's take an example of JavaScript. They'll ask you how let is different from var. And talking about Java, they will ask you how hash map internally works. They ask you, it's a simple question and it has a really very simple answer, and they'll ask you this. Now they'll ask you why a given methods are functions in Java. So they will ask you why a given method cannot return multiple data types. And they'll ask you tricky questions also. So having knowledge of Java syntax and structures is really very important. They'll ask you method signature, what are method signatures, and all those things. So those are really very important, and these are the basics of a particular language. And then they'll be asking you control flows related problems like if else statement, the problems that you'll be solving using if else. You'll be solving problems using loops. Then they will be asking you why you're not using do while loop but while loop, or why you're using just a for loop and not a do loop or a do while loop. They'll ask you these questions, and they would want you to explain them, why you chose for over while, or why you choose do over do while, or why you're choosing while loop only instead of do while, or why you're using if else. So they would want you to explain these things, your decisions. They want you to explain your decisions over your programming, whatever problem you'll be solving. Then they want you to have object oriented programming is knowledge. So they'll be asking you, of course, we all know that they'll be asking you about what are objects, inheritance, abstraction, polymorphism, encapsulation. They'll be asking, these are the basic oops concepts they'll be asking you. And even they will be providing you with questions to answer related to a specific, let's say they'll be asking you a problem that inheritance will solve. And then they won't tell you, they won't be very clear about it. They'll just they won't tell you that they are asking a problem related to inheritance. They'll ask you a problem, a simple problem, like there's this car, it has wheels, it has different parameters, and then I would want to make a car of different color. Or maybe I would want to make a bicycle. Then how a bicycle is related to a car, can you write a Java code to demonstrate this? So at that place you can create, you can use any concept among this. And then they'll be asking you which oops concept is that you're using here in this particular question. So yeah, they'll be very what to say, uh, not clear into their questions, but they would want you to create a clear mapping towards solving your question. So that's one expectation. And then talking about exception handling, yes, this is one thing that I can say most of the people, most of the freshers, they don't worry about exception handling. So what happens is, let's say they asked you to create a hello world application where there this API, let's say www.abc.com/hello. If a person hits that API, they'll be getting a hello written on the screen. So what if a person doesn't send hello over there? Most of the people, what they do, they don't handle it while solving the problem. Let's say in an interview, this question is asked, you have created a service, you've created an API, and once you're hitting hello, it's returning hello world. But what if it doesn't return hello? Or what if a person sends abc.com/0/1? So these are the exceptions. These are the exceptions that, or you have created an API to add two numbers or to divide two numbers. What if a person is sending 0 divided by 0? So these are a few exceptions that I'm giving as an example, but there are a lot of different scenarios that they want you to handle. So and there's one more thing, those who are familiar with exception handling, most of the people, what they do, they, while creating a function or a method, they write try and catch blocks in the beginning of the code only, which might not be necessary for solving that particular code. So it's your decision that you need to take. So yeah, that is also one important thing that you need to worry about while giving interviews or while preparing for your interviews. when to use exception handling and where to use it, whether it's efficient or whether it's required or not. These are the few questions that you need to learn and understand uh, for your to prepare best for your interviews. And then of course you need to know about basic Java APIs and libraries. Let's say there's this library called Commons, Apache Commons. It provides a lot of functionality that makes your life really very easy. Let's say for checking whether a collection is empty or not, it provides an inbuilt function for that. So you need to know about all these things, so you don't go ahead and write your own piece of code if Java already provides those solutions out of the box. And okay, sorry. So now talking about core concepts, understanding the basic the variable and data types is really very important in Java. So let's say if you're solving a problem and you have taken integer as a variable, and you have taken, let's say, what to say, a long as a variable. You can take both. You can take either integer or long. But in your solution, uh, if they would ask you to optimize it, how will you do that? Like for now, for interviews it's not important, but for when you're writing production level code, you need to worry about memory management. Not just memory management, but the memory allocation. If you're using integer, chances are, let's say I'm taking a general hypothetical scenario, it might be taking more memory. Let's say compared to if you're using long, it might be taking more memory compared to integer. So your problem might have, you could have used integer but you have used long there. So these are few decisions, so these are few differences. You need to know which particular data type takes how much memory in RAM to efficiently solve and optimize problems in your interviews. And these are the basic thing that those companies and interviews expect from freshers to know. And talking about operators, of course, these are the basics. These are the really basic core concepts that they want freshers to know about. uh, Control structures, of course, they wanted to know. Functions, methods. Functions are methods only. In Java we call them methods. And how can you reuse it? Of course, function overriding and all these things. These are the core concepts that they want you to know. A function with the same name and different parameters. Method signatures are different, but the function is doing tasks based upon the parameters that are passed into it. So they'll ask you blatant questions and they would expect you to map back to the core concepts of Java. And input output scanner classes to read from CLIs and standard libraries, common. They want you to know all these things. So these are the basic ones. I'm not going to delve deeper into these topics. Now, talking about object oriented programming or principle. So encapsulation, of course, I've written the definition in one line that you can read. But in interview, what you should expect mostly is they'll be giving you, as I told you, the example of a car and a bike. So these are two different objects. A car is an object, a bike is an object. So what are the similarities in these two? Uh, they both have wheels. Car has four, bike has two. They both have engines. Car has a bigger capacity engine with big different number of cylinders. A bike has a different engine with a small number of cylinders. So these are the different two objects. They are different. Now they would ask you, they would provide you a question, a different question. And they would say that, okay, my question is okay, but what principle in object oriented programming are you using to solve this particular problem? So let's say they gave you an idea of a car. You have a car can have different models, right? So every model has different uniqueness into it. So that is one thing that they'll ask you, okay, there's a car, there are three different car models, and how are you solving a problem? Let's say there's this problem, and how you're solving it. So you can tell, okay, I've inherited property of a car object, and I have added, let's say, that car, there is a car that has 8 wheels. There is a car that has 6 wheels. So you can say that, okay, I have inherited the properties of this particular class, this particular car, and I have added 2 more wheels into it. So that's where inheritance comes into play. So you can map back to the questions and you can explain them what principle you're using of object oriented programming in solving your problems. And companies, they expect these basic things from you. They won't ask you blatantly like which object oriented principle you're using, but they expect you to be clear and be loud about what particular principle you're using. Talking about libraries and frameworks, so a Spring framework, I've already told you, it's not a library, of course, it's a framework, like React. So yeah. You must know about a Spring framework. As I told you, I was unaware of a Spring framework when I was in college, but once I started working, on the first day I got to know that okay, there's this Spring that exists. In college I just heard the name of the Spring, and I was not into Java programming at all. I was into Python programming. But when I at my first day of job, I had to work with Java. So I had to learn, because since my basics were clear, I quickly grasp the language. I just had to learn the syntax and everything, and all the every rest of the things were simple. So it's really very easy. It's not that it's really very difficult. Java is not a difficult language. Comparatively, it might sound like it, one can get overwhelmed that okay, it's a bit difficult than Python because this and syntax and all. Believe me, it's not. So you just need to know about few basic for your interviews. You just need to know about this Spring framework. There's this Hibernate, as I told you, object relational mapping tool. What ORM does is actually, let's say you're having a data in your SQL table and you are getting it into you're fetching that data into your object. Let's say there's this car is an object, and you are having a table cars in your SQL database. Once you are taking data from that table, let's say there are few different columns. One is wheel, number of wheels, another one is color, another one is model. So you are having an object that has three keys: name, color, wheel count, all these things. So once you are taking that data from SQL, it is an object. It gets serialized and it gets transported via network and internet, and it comes to your service. Let's say both are on different servers. How will you map it to your object Java class? How will you map it? So there is sorry, this relay ORM tools, they come into play. Earlier you had to create an object mapper for this particular to solve this particular problem, but now there are tools like Hibernate that automatically does this thing. You will create a class car and you'll provide few fields. ORM will automatically map your data to those fields. So that's what Hibernate is. And then they want you to know about Apache Maven. As I told you, Python package manager is for Python, Node package manager is for Node, Maven is for Java, for to maintain libraries and all dependencies, or you can say yeah, libraries and dependencies are same thing. So to do that, you need Maven. So you need to know basic Maven commands also to create your build, to create your jar file, to update or refresh your dependencies. And then there's this JUnit for testing framework. So when you'll get into TDD, test driven development, there JUnit comes into play, where you'll have to write unit test cases so that you can encounter failures or you can encounter errors before moving before while creating your build and before moving to the production or a staging environment. The Java FX for, of course, these are just Java FX is not that important, but the above four, Spring framework, Hibernate, Apache Maven, and JUnit, are really very important from a fresher's perspective. So you need to know basics about them. Now, how one can master the basics? This is one question. So we have talked about all these things: object oriented programming, core concepts, introduction to Java, core concepts, object oriented programming, libraries and framework. Now how will you master these things? So there must be something like I'm sitting here and I'm telling you about all these things, but I'm not telling you how to master it, right? That is the key. Everyone can Google it and find all these things. Okay, these are the important things about a particular language I need to learn, but how I can learn it? So there was this problem, I would say, with me, that in my class when I was younger, and in a school, so I used to see I had friends who were good at studies. So they were scoring really very good, and I was not scoring that good. So I used to wonder like how they study, how do they study, what makes them different from me? We are sitting in the same class and everything. So the thing that I observed was that they were creating notes, and not just creating notes, they were at the evening they were creating that notes into another notebook, so they were revising it 2 times in a day. What I was doing, I was only creating notes in the class, and I was not revising them in the home until it was, our exams were near. So that was a difference that I observed, and I was like, okay, it's at that particular time in my life I learned that learning is really very, it's just your approach, how you approach towards learning a particular thing. So that's what I'm going to tell you in this particular slide, that how can you master the basics, how can you learn. So regular practice is really very important. Project based learning for software development, and especially in Java, is really very important. You should maintain a GitHub profile, and you should update your projects over there. It can be as simple as a hello world application in different languages, or it can be hello world application with a Spring and different frameworks. Let's say you're not using a Spring, you are using JSP, Java Servlet pages, hello world in these two different frameworks. You can create that, and you can upload it on the GitHub, make it open source. So, and put their link in your resumes. That would really help. You'll be having knowledge of these two things. So project based learning is really very important, because while building your projects, you'll encounter some errors that you don't encounter while reading or studying a particular subject or a particular thing in Java. But while writing your code and everything, you'll encounter different types of exception. Why you'll get to know a lot of things. You'll get into a lot of what to say, rabbit holes. You'll go into Google, you'll search for solution, and you'll find a new word over there, and then you'll Google that particular word, and you'll keep on going, and you'll learn a lot of more things. So project based learning is really very important. Third one is code review and refactoring. So there is a point in your life, if you're if in not just in your life, but while learning also, if you're learning and your approach of learning a particular thing is, let's say, it's a static, that approach might not be helping you into understanding a particular concept. Like, I had problems understanding difference between graphs and what to say trees, data structures. I had really very like big problem understanding difference between these two. But what I did, I actually went ahead into the community, and I asked a lot of questions, and I interacted with a lot of people. I asked their perspective. At that time, we didn't have chat GPT, right, to tell me the difference. Like, I'm a 5-year kid. So I went ahead and I did that, and that made me learn a lot of new things also. And that made me learn really good things, like why I should use a priority queue over a normal queue while solving a problem. So these were the things that I encountered while interacting with people. And while my code was getting reviewed by my peer, they were suggesting me that, okay, instead of this particular data structure, you can also use this particular data structure to, to make this code more efficient. And I used to wonder, okay, and then I did that. But when I didn't used to believe them, I'm kind of like a stubborn. I was like, okay, I have done my research and studies. This is the efficient one. But if someone is saying, then I'll go ahead, and I created two different projects, one with that data structure, one with my data structure, and I compared their efficiency. And then if I see the differences, then I used to go ahead again to them, and I used to have conversation and discussions that, okay, you were right, or if I'm wrong, or if I'm right, you are wrong. These kind of discussions, these are really very helpful. So code review and refactoring is really very important. Participating in coding challenges, you can go to Hacker Rank, Lead Code, practice over there. There are a lot of different coding challenges are happening all around the internet. You can go ahead and take participate. It's not important to win those challenges, but it's important to attempt them, and at least reach to a point where you are able to solve the problem. It might not be that in a given, let's say in 1 month you went ahead. Earlier you were unable to solve problems, but in 1 month, let's say after attempting every single day, you're taking part, you're participating into a challenge. After 1 month, you are able to solve the problems. And after that, after second month, now you are competing against people to solve that problem efficiently. And then in the third month, you're competing with people to not just solve the problem efficiently, but to solve that problem way before anyone else. So solving and participating in coding challenges is really very important. Fourth one is Fifth one is seeking feedback. This is really very important. And this here I would say that don't just go ahead and say that don't just neglect people's feedback, even if it's not positive. Just go ahead and seek for feedback and stay updated. That's what I would say. You can follow blogs, different blogs. You can go to, let's say, Java forum. You can go to Oracle's blog. You can put your email over there, and they'll be sending you weekly digest for that, for what developments they are doing and everything. So staying updated and relevant is really they are of paramount importance in software industry. Talking about interview questions, so core Java, okay, these are the things that these are these are five topics that that type of questions, they like questions in an interview revolve around these five topics: core Java concepts, problem solving skills, Java libraries and frameworks, real world scenarios, recent Java features. That's it. For freshers, these are the 5 points where questions are generally they revolve around in an interview. They won't go that much into the deeper into a particular question. They won't ask you that, okay, write an assembly code for this for loop. No, they won't. But they will ask you what is a for loop, how it is different from a while loop, and all those questions, the differences and everything. So I'll be moving ahead for sample Q&A. So for data types, they might ask you what are the different data types in Java. These are the plain white questions that they will be asking you at the beginning. If you are able to answer them, then only they'll be moving ahead. And then they'll say what a constructor, what is a copy of constructor, what is overloading, constructor overloading, function overloading, all those things. Then they might ask you Java features, like explain some Java features, as it's an open-ended question. If you'll say, let's say they asked you list and explain the features of Java, and you're like, okay, it's an object-oriented programming, then they might stop you in the between and they'll ask you, okay, object-oriented programming, let's talk about encapsulation, what problem does it solve. So they'll ask you these types of questions. Now for object oriented concepts, let's say you said one of the feature of Java, let's say you said Java is an object oriented programming. They might ask you, let's say, what is inheritance, and can you explain the concept of polymorphism? And then they might ask you the internals of Java. So what is a JVM, what is a class loader? They might ask you these questions. So they want you to know the basics. Once you compile a code and once you run the code, how the you can say how the focus of the particular program is moving from one class to another. So they want you to know that, and everyone should know that. It really helps into debugging your services and code. Then they might ask you problems related to programming logic, error handling, behavioral questions. Now these are also important nowadays. Earlier they were not that important, but now they are. So they can ask you, tell me about the time when you had to work for a difficult with a difficult team member. So as I already told you, your team skills, your communication skills comes into play here. So you can't go ahead and say, okay, that it was a difficult team, so I went to my manager and I said, I don't want to work with this team, and I'll just give me another project or something like that, and I just moved ahead. No, you can't say that in an interview. Of course you should not. You should use your of course you should use your brain, and you should say that be honest, don't be dishonest, otherwise you'll face problems later. But you can go ahead and say that, okay, there was this team was difficult, but I took it as a challenge and I had to work around so that I can get my work done, because I can't let my team or me be an obstacle into achieving my goals for the company, right? Because company is paying you to solve a particular problem, so it's your aim and your goal to solve the problem. So behavioral questions are really very important. How optimistic you are, how good at communicating you are, these are really very important. Now talking about tricky questions, they are also asked in interviews. So I have prepared a tricky question, like it's related to threading. Multi-threading and threading concepts are also important. They're not that important, but once you're having what to say, an experience of 6 months, companies, they ask this question because threading is really very important for solving problems. There are libraries and frameworks available to solve specific problems, but ultimately at one point of your life, within a year, if you are in a good company, you'll have to write a multi-threaded code. So they can ask you, can a dead thread be started again? It sounds like an open-ended and casual question. And then I have provided the answer and the explanation on the screen for you, but most of the people, they might not they might not answer it. They might say, okay, the thread, let's say I don't know about threads, then I would say a dead thread, okay, yes, it won't start. Why? Because the answer is correct. I'm saying that yeah, it won't start. The answer is correct, but I might say it got garbage collected. The object that was created for that particular thread, it got garbage collected and all. My concept is not clear. So this the answer and the explanation that I've provided on the screen is the way in which you should approach towards answering such questions, such tricky questions. So your answer might be correct, but your explanations might not be correct. So you need to be very, attentive for these types of tricky questions. And now talking about the learning resources. So here are a few learning resources. Shiksha.com online courses, you can go there, you can learn about, you can find a plethora of courses. I believe me, I went a lot of different places, and this particular site, it lists a lot of courses from different portals. So it's really very good. Then you can go to learning. These are the first one is not just specific to Java, but you'll find courses for Java also, but rest of the code are specific to Java. Spring Framework provides the Spring company, their website is spring.io. You can go there, you can learn basics of Java, the basics of Spring Framework, not just Java. You can go to Oracle website, you can learn basics of Java over there. So these are some resources. Here are some books that I actually read these books around a year ago, and I found them to be really very useful. Among these books, I would say for Java programmers and for Java developers, the last one, Data Structures and Algorithm in Java, it's just gold mine. You go ahead, you just read this book, you just practice the problems given in this particular book, and believe me, there's no interview in this world that you can't solve. So it's a gold mine. And then after this, when you'll move up to the other three books, designing data intensive applications, architecting for scale, and software engineering at Google. The about two books, designing data intensive applications and architecting for scale, these two will help you streamline your system design concepts. Believe me, they will help you streamline your system design concepts. And software engineering at Google, this will help you in problem solving and approaching towards the behavioral, answering the behavioral questions that you get asked in your interview. So the above three books are for that. And for Java specifically, the fourth book is a gold mine. You can Google them and you can find them anywhere. Now, as I told you, I'll be providing you resources that you won't find just after Googling. So these are those resources. There are two communities on Reddit. I guess most of the people use Reddit nowadays. So Developers India is one, and r/programming is one. You can go ahead, you can ask a question, no matter how silly it is. You can go ahead, you can ask there, and you'll find good people answering your questions there. Then there's dev.to website. You can create your account over there, and you can get questions. You can read about new developments and everything. LinkedIn, of course, if you're following good people, you'll be getting good resources. Stack Overflow's blog is really very good resource. And DigitalOcean's community tutorials. If you are a little bit advanced, you are working with your POCs or you are working with your projects, you can go over there and you'll find simple, really very simple tutorials on things like how to install SQL on my Ubuntu 22 system. They are having really very good blog to and tutorials to explain you how to do these things step by step. And here's the summary what we have discussed so far. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and read them out for you. So Java remains the top demand programming language with a strong job growth and competitive salaries. Then we discussed how to, you can master what core skills you need to master and how to master them. So where we talked about object-oriented programming, Java core concepts, data structure, syntax, exceptions, and fundamentals. Then demand for skills, and then we talked about frameworks, the Spring framework. And then I also said that cloud platform is really very important. Having knowledge about the basic knowledge about like what's the difference between EC2 and compute engine. They both are same. The terminology is different. Pricing is different. Then agile methodologies are important. Familiarity with agile technologies and development tools like GitHub, Jenkins, and all these things. You don't need to be an advanced user of these things, but you need to have basic knowledge about these things. And then you need to have problem solving skills, adaptability, which is related to versatility. Don't stick to a specific domain, but you need to be versatile enough to switch domains with respect to the problem statement. Yeah. And then regular coding, how you can do all these things by regular practice, creating projects, engaging in the communities. And I've provided you with the online courses, these links for the resources, books, and everything. You can explore them. And then I provided you with sample interview questions, and I provided you those 5 points over which these interview questions revolve around for a fresher. And then staying updated and engaging with the communities. That's what we have discussed so far. So now I'll be ending this particular presentation webinar from my side, and I'm open to questions from your side.
Yeah. So we have one question that has come in the Q&A. Does while loop exist or not? That is the question. Is that something that is the logical question?
No, every program has loops, and while loop is it in every programming you'll find while loops over there. So yeah, the question is not that clear,
Yeah,
but I can
even
say
I
yes,
thought
it
so.
does exist.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I can say.
Okay, so we don't have any more questions as of now.
Okay.
There were some questions that were asked by participants at the time of registration. I am going to pick up one because we've already overshot, so I'll just pick up one.
Oh, okay.
What is the future scope as a Java developer? If you can throw some light on that.
Okay, as I already told you, Java in itself is a versatile language. It's not specific for a given domain or field. So it's not less solving a problem for a hospitality industry or engineering industry, but it's a versatile language. And as I also told you that Java is being used for creating AI services and machine learning projects. So it has and it ultimately I would say it has a big company like Oracle behind it. So it has a really bright future. And yeah, it has a bright future. So uh, I don't see Java being obsolete or vanishing from the community in given 15 to or 25 years from now. I don't see it vanishing.
Okay. There's one more question that has come in just now. Why do methods not return multiple values or data types?
Okay, it's this is a tricky question. uh Methods, they in itself they don't return different data types, but you can create hash maps or you can create your own object. Since Java is an object oriented programming language, you can create your own object and you can return that object that might have different data types. That is one way you can do that. So it's a tricky question. And that's how you can return multiple data types with a particular method. But in itself, if you'll say that you are going to use inbuilt data types, no, you can't. You can only either return an integer or a long value, not both at the same time.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the session. I will quickly launch a poll uh, for the participants who are there. We just want to get your feedback on whether you found the session useful, whether you would recommend it to others as well, and it gives us an idea of whether you like such topics, and if we can have such topics in future. So just would request that whoever is still attending can just let us know in the feedback poll. I have also shared the link to the YouTube link, sorry, where you will be able to find the session later on. Any certification for attending this webinar? As of now, we do not have any certification or any certificates for attendees. But you can I'll share my email ID here. You can, what you can do is you can share your name and the webinar that you attended. Um, and I can check if, we can have some certificate in place. So, okay, I have a few replies on the feedback poll. Thank you so much. I'm just ending the poll. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Shubham, for taking out the time for this. Very grateful. I think it was a very, very detailed session. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, it was a very detailed session. Thank you so much for putting in so much efforts, and I'm pretty sure that people who were attending would be able to benefit out of it. And also,
Thank you.
thank you so much, attendees to who were present today. Thank you so much, and thank you for asking questions as well. So that brings us to the end of the session. I'm just going
Yeah,
to
I
stop
would
the
also like
recording.
to thank you, Niharika, for approaching for this particular session. Thank you very much. Really, very happy to be here and really very happy to answer people's question and help them in their future endeavors. So yeah, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone,
you
and
so
thank you,
much. Yeah,
Niharika.
it was a pleasure having you.
Same
Yeah.
here. It's mutual.